In 1979, the person who would become the face of Christian music was dying.
That would be the biggest pit of my life.
He wasn't in a church, he wasn't in a hospital, he was in an apartment in Nashville, Tennessee. Can I uncover how you go from that experience to being one of the most well-known names in music? And can I go through his whole catalog, rank the albums, and then pick a song to cover and do it justice? Michael W. Smith has sold millions upon millions of albums. He's filled stadiums across the globe. But before the Grammys, he was in a deep, dark descent into a world that nearly erased him before it ever began. This story starts in Canova, West Virginia. Population, maybe 5,000. Michael was the kid that everybody wanted to be. I mean, he was a standout baseball player, he was a piano prodigy by the age of 5, and a lot of this is due to the fact that Michael's parents were remarkable. According to the book that Michael wrote about his father, his dad was a really accomplished athlete, but actually gave that up. He gave it up to be married and caring for a family, and also caring for his own mother. Michael's relationship with his dad seems to be one of the most grounding things for him emotionally and spiritually for his whole life.
Who was my dad? He was the kindest man I'd ever met in my entire life. He had to be my dad. He loved my mom. He loved me unconditionally, my sister as well. His glass was always half full. He was extraordinary.
His dad worked hard in a factory job and would take time to come home to his family, would take him to see baseball games and all of these things. Michael's mother was also really grounding for him in this way. In fact, his mother was a trend breaker.
My mom was 8 years old, and her 3 younger siblings, Pat, Dee, and Bill. And my real grandmother, she was not a very good person. That's a whole other story, but she told them to get out. They were 1 block from their house, I believe, and she told them to get out of the car. You're walking home, and she drove off, and she never came back, ever. And I remember her telling me one day, she's going, I just decided that if I have a family one day, that's never going to happen to my family.
Both his mom and his dad contributed to his love of music and baseball and his love for God. There was a spiritual intensity, and at the age of 10, Michael had a radical conversion, which he said left him on fire. But the small town walls were kind of starting to close in, and Michael had some bigger ideas. By the time Michael reached Marshall University, the church kid was a little bored. He discovered that he didn't just have a talent for music and for piano, he had a passion for it, and he also wanted the spotlight. But the spotlight in West Virginia just wasn't working. So he dropped out after 1 semester, called and told his parents that he was going to Nashville to be a musician. However, what they didn't know is that Michael already was playing with fire a little bit mentally heading to Nashville.
All roads lead to Nashville, music sweet, USA.
Nashville in 1978. It wasn't just steel guitars, it wasn't just country singers, it was a playground for a new musician with a new experience, but also with no supervision. Michael landed several jobs when he was in Nashville, not in the music scene, but doing things like landscaping by day. And then by night, you would find him in the clubs. We see this a lot when kids go away from home and they get ungrounded, that suddenly the things they thought would be easy to say no to aren't as easy to say no to. Under the pressure of the scene around him, Michael began a very slow dance with substance abuse.
Smoking that first joint and feeling so guilty about it. From there it went to, it was cocaine, it was LSD. And I'm just in the thick of it, man. I'm just doing this stuff, and I got sucked into this thing. For some reason, I justified it.
He was living a double life that wasn't sustainable.
I lost my way, and I thought I could play with the fire and not get burned, and all of a sudden I'm trapped. I'm literally trapped. It's the crazy thing is because I remember getting high with people, and I would be talking about Jesus. And they'd all go, wow, man, that's really cool. I mean, it sounds weird.
He was writing all of these songs and finding some success, but his pockets were full of things that were making him forget where he came from, making him forget about God. However, there was one particular night that changed everything for him. Michael decided to do a little bit of cocaine, but the thing is, he snorted something that he thought was cocaine, and it wasn't. His nose is bleeding uncontrollably. His heart is pounding, and it feels like it's gonna break out of the front of him.
Thought I was gonna die. Literally. Thought I'm dying. And that's when I began to pray that God would do whatever he had to do to get my attention.
Suddenly, he's in a crisis. He doesn't even know who he is anymore. That's when Michael, on the floor, feeling like he's dying, says, "God, break my legs. Do whatever you have to do to get my attention. Just don't kill me." In November of 1979, that prayer was answered, not with a broken leg, but instead an emotional breakdown. Things had finally gotten to him, and for 3.5 hours, Michael laid on the linoleum kitchen floor of his apartment and cried and shook. That's all he could do. At 3:30 a.m., Michael didn't hear a voice. He didn't have light come down from the sky, but what he did feel is a weight lift off of him.
And I wept and I wept and I cried and I cried. And I just began to cry out for God. The God of the universe came and wept with me on that floor. And I haven't been the same since.
Michael got up the next morning, walked out of that apartment, and never touched another drug again. And while a lot of us might see that and feel like it's the end, it's actually just the beginning. I have finished the first couple of Michael W. Smith albums that continue through the 80s. First up was Michael W. Smith Project. This album was really good. I had a lot of really great memories with this album because my family, we would listen to this album all the time. I had a hard time picking a favorite from it, but I think I'm gonna go with The Race Is On. It feels just very 80s pop, so it's a great release. The recovery was instant, but the success and career was a really slow burn. So welcome to the 1980s. Michael became the keyboardist for a rising star named Amy Grant. He was the kid at the back, but his talent and his songwriting was starting to push him a little more towards the front. By 1981, Michael is clean, he's sober, and he's on staff at Meadow Green Music in Nashville. Michael wasn't really looking for a relationship. He was obsessed with piano and songwriting, but then someone walked down the hallway.
I'd just gotten my first songwriting contract. I was in heaven, and she walked by at a record company, ran back and found a phone, called my mom, and just was talking 100 miles a minute. And just tell my mom about this girl. Oh, I saw this girl, she's amazing.
Now his mom, thinking that Michael probably relapsed or something, says, "Okay, well, what's her name?" Michael's response?
I don't know. I haven't met her yet. So I found her in the building, introduced myself. I think she was in the restroom, so I waited outside the women's restroom for her to walk out.
So Michael ends up waiting in the hallway near the restrooms and finally encounters Debbie. They talk and they went on their first date 4 days later. Now, if you think the meeting is fast, well then the relationship is at light speed.
We got engaged 3.5 weeks later and then married 4 months later. I don't advise that when I talk to young people. You know, it's not probably the smartest thing to do, but you know what? I'm sold. It does happen from time to time, and it happened to me.
But little did he know just what his relationship with Debbie would look like. In 1983, Michael releases his first album called Project. But one thing I didn't know about this album is that Debbie wrote the lyrics. I still revisit this album. I've listened to it 1,000,000 times, but I had no idea that she was even involved in it. Now, Michael releases another album. It is also a hit. So by 1986, he has 2 hit albums under his belt. Michael W. Smith 2, I don't like it as much as Project, so it will be going under Project, but it has some really great stuff on it. I just can't really remember a ton of it right off the bat. But Michael was hitting a wall with other Christian musicians. The Christian music industry was safe and polite at times. Michael was ready to ruffle some feathers. He was ready to do something that sounded like U2 or Talking Heads or Peter Gabriel. To do that, he did something really radical for the Christian scene. Michael works with a mainstream audio engineer who had worked on U2's War and Talking Heads' Remain in Light. The result was the album The Big Picture, a sonic shock to the system. by the time we get to the big picture, we're seeing something way different from him. I had not listened through the big picture in a very long time. Definitely don't think I had ever listened to the whole album. The production is some of the most unique that we've seen, I believe, from Michael W. Smith, at least that I can remember. The opening track, Lamu, is so good that I'm fairly confident it's going to be the one that I want to cover. Acoustic pianos were replaced with synthesizers and funk rhythms and clean and distorted guitars, layers and layers of texture. Michael and the lyricist Wayne Kirkpatrick decided to stop playing it safe and tackle some pretty big topics. Topics that the church was usually whispering about. You've got the song The Last Letter, which is talking about the reality of teen suicide. The song Old Enough to Know is a direct challenge to sexual encounters with people. The song Lamu. This is an insane 6-minute long song about escapism. How people try to run to a literal paradise to escape the internal conflicts that are in them. When I listen to Lamu, there's something that feels like it connects deeply with Michael's story. It connects with his run to Nashville. It connects with him using drugs to escape. There's something about the song Lamu that feels much more connected to him as a person. Then there was the song Rocket Town. On the surface, Rocket Town is a song about nightlife, but deep down, it's a song about being the light in a really dark world. The song was so fundamental to Michael's vision for the future that it eventually became the name of his Nashville youth club, and it became the name of his record label. I still have a memory of hearing that song and Wired for Sound on an anniversary video of a tour that he was doing. The Big Picture became his most critically acclaimed album, but it also became his worst selling one. It was just too strange for the Christian music market at the time, and the songs were maybe too long to be played on Christian radio. Ironically, we see this a lot with some of the most critically acclaimed albums. For example, the album Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys. Critically loved, but it flopped. Sometimes people need a little bit of time before they revisit an album and realize that it's actually revolutionary. In the big picture of his career, however, this album proved that Michael just wasn't a puppet to the Christian music industry or any industry. He was a true artist. And while the sales weren't there, the foundation had been laid for massive crossover success in the 90s.
Ultimately, the message is definitely the most important thing. I mean, I'm really trying to connect. I'm trying to say something.
Michael is, at this point, the undisputed king of CCM, but he was also restless. He didn't just want to reach the choir and the people in the pews and in their minivans. He wanted to reach the world. So he teams up with Brian Lennox, a producer, and the songwriter Wayne Kirkpatrick again, and they set out to fashion something together that would be different. In 1991, the album Go West Young Man comes out, and its lead single was a gamble. It didn't mention Jesus by name. It talked about wandering and finding a place, and it was called A Place in This World.
I'm looking for a reason, roaming through the night to find my place in this world, my place in this world.
That gamble paid off. The song exploded. It didn't just go up the Billboard charts, it tore through the Billboard charts. It went all the way up to number 6 on the Billboard Top 100. Suddenly, Michael wasn't just a name that people knew in the church. Michael was playing on The Tonight Show and showing up in People magazine. But like every type of success, there is a cost. and that cost was served by the church. The 90s had what we would call the great crossover debate. Can a Christian artist play secular music? Can a secular artist write a Christian song while maintaining the secular music? While Michael is reaching millions of young people and teenagers with his music, the church is over here calling him and others a sellout, saying that these guys are watering down the gospel or that they don't care about the church anymore. I understand this notion. I don't really fall into that category of thought. But for a lot of people, when they found that their favorite Christian artist suddenly did a song that didn't mention Jesus explicitly, it felt like they were betrayed. In fact, we see this a lot across genres. We see artists that will hop over to a different style of music and suddenly their entire fan base is polarized. People over here saying they love it and people over here saying they hate it and assuming the worst. So Michael finds himself in a weird purgatory. He's too Christian for MTV, but he's too secular for the church. Michael, I'm sure, felt the pressure to maintain this pop star status, and he continued to release more pop albums in the 90s. He was traveling with a massive crew and stage production, all of these things. I'm gonna pause the video for a second because you may not even realize it, but I am wearing a Jonathan Allen Wright t-shirt. It's super under the radar. I wanted to make something that people, if they wanted to support me, they could get it, but if they wear it, they're not gonna feel like it's just like my face on a t-shirt. So I've got hats, I got t-shirts, they're down below this video, but you should finish the video first. Well, I have listened through some more of the 90s Michael W. Smith. I really wasn't crazy familiar with a lot of these albums, which is probably why they rank lower than the others. It's like a nostalgia type situation. I found it interesting how well he's adapted his sound to the decade. And this is something I think a lot of CCM gets wrong right now. You know, I always joke and say CCM runs 4 to 5 years behind what is currently happening in music. You have musicians that they will hear what's currently happening on the radio, but they're kind of stuck in the CCM machine, and then they'll adapt it a little bit later, and then they'll risk it finally and put it out. And by the time that happens, it's been, let's say, 3 years since that sound was really popular. If you look at Michael W. Smith's catalog, his music was matching with the sound. You know, I think about how U2 sounded in the 90s. Change Your World is really an interesting album, but I'm gonna have to put it below everything else so far. After that, we have I'll Lead You Home, and that's pretty good. I like it, but I still don't think it's as good as Change Your World, so we'll just settle that down under that a little bit. Live the Life is good. I think it is better than the previous one, so I'm gonna put it directly under Change Your World. Then we get to 1998's Christmas Time, and that's right, I'm including this album. This album is beautiful. I mean, it's crazy because he literally has a beautiful composition on every song. Christmas Time is something I revisit anyway, but listening to it in the context just gave me a new appreciation for how unique this was for him to branch towards it. I've got to move Christmas Time. I don't know. It's going to be up in the top. I'm going to have to put it at the end, the final listing. While his tour schedule is grueling and continuing, Michael's family is also growing. It was at this peak of what we'll call Smitty mania that Michael kind of had to make a decision. Much like the sport that Michael loves, it seemed like Michael was about to run all the way to home. By the turn of the millennium, the Christian music industry was booming. But Michael seems to feel like it had lost its soul. Chart positions, record sales, snakes in the lobby. Michael was leading worship on Sundays, but at the same time had this pop persona outside of the church. It was a little bit of a crossroads. In the spring of 2001, Michael felt the nudge to lead a worship night to lead into the Gospel Music Association week in Nashville, Tennessee, asking artists to drop their egos and just stand in the choir and sing worship.
Do you want me to read Amos 5 here?
I would love for you to read Amos.
Prepare for impact, trust me.
Yeah.
I can't stand your religious meetings. I've had all I can take of your noisy ego music. When was the last time you sang to me?
I don't know who pointed me to the message to read the Amos thing. It threw me back against the wall, and my knees buckled. I mean, it was like an epiphany. It was like a, whoa, gosh, Lord, have we missed it? If I'm not a part of that change, then shame on me. And I've got to do my part. 75 of the largest names in the Christian music industry stood there in the Ryman. It was a night that changed him. So he gathers a group of friends in Lakeland, Florida, and they record a worship album.
and I will ever praise you. Lift it up.
No pop hooks or anything like that. It was just worship and prayers set to music. After recording it, Michael sets a release date, and he sets it for a day that would in fact change everything.
Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack. The victims were in airplanes or in their offices. Secretaries, businessmen and women, military and federal workers, moms and dads, friends and neighbors.
As the towers are falling and the nation is grieving, Michael's worship album is hitting the shelves. It's such a polarizing moment. But the music industry is shut down. The airplanes are grounded. Promotion at this point is impossible and also feels like it's in bad taste. But without any marketing, people begin to find it. Radio stations are playing Above All and Breathe. In a time that felt like the world was ending, Michael's album was bringing in some comfort for people, something that he could have never predicted. In a way, the album Worship became the soundtrack of a national tragedy. The album eventually went double platinum, and it helped usher in the live worship movement that we still see continuing to this day, but that truthfully never really lived up to this. In 2004, Michael won his third Grammy for the album Worship Again. This was followed by a string of high-charting albums that varied across a bunch of different genres. Let's talk the modern era of Michael W. Smith. I'm going to say that this is post-2000. This, I think, is where his sound changed to be pretty much what we know him to be, at least at my age. The Worship album is phenomenal. It is the definitive worship sound. He follows this up with another worship album that's also really good. I know that the Worship album is going to end up in my top 5. We have albums kind of like Healing Rain that hop in and out of there that I'm aware of, but I don't think that they rank very high up on the list when you're looking at the big picture. Not that they sound bad, but it's just they don't maybe measure in the same scale. You move forward even more and you have albums like Sovereign, and I think Sovereign's a really underrated worship adjacent album from him, and it came out in the 2010s. I just don't know that as we move forward that they will rank any higher than what we've seen in the 80s and 90s. But some notable things have happened. You know, you've got like Arms Around the Sun and Your Love Is a Flood. These came out in the 2020s.
Trying to get my head around you is like trying to wrap my arms around the sun. Oh, yeah.
And they sound like his 1980s stuff. I don't know what that album is going to look like, but I'm really excited. He also released 2 instrumental orchestra-based albums that I truly love. And with all of this, the industry really began to cement his legacy. In 2008, he was inducted into the Gospel Music Hall of Fame. In 2018, he was inducted into the West Virginia Music Hall of Fame, a nod to those Canova Kid roots. In 2014, ASCAP honored him with the Golden Note Award for Lifetime Achievement in Songwriting. He was the first Christian artist to ever receive that honor, putting him in the same category as guys like Stevie Wonder and Quincy Jones. Michael became a global spokesman for Compassion International, helping get over 70,000 children sponsored. Rocketown, his Nashville youth club, grew into a massive youth outreach, having things like a skate park and safe places to be and teaching them the arts. He began working with Bono on the One campaign to help fight extreme poverty in Africa. Michael wasn't just singing for the church, he had now sung for the world. But as we approach more recent years, Michael still is refusing to become that legacy artist. Right now my shed is not very quiet because I have a heater running. So it is loud, loud, loud in here. Alright, let's see how that sounds. I think this sounds better. They say it's there that you can run. to, yeah. We're just gonna go funk. Ugh, I almost forgot to call my friend.
We got snowed in, and I am still trying to create this song. My equipment is out in my studio, and it's ice everywhere. So I'm using like my keyboard to play the bass parts and try to build this beat. I finally finished recording and filming the song, and then I now have sent it to my friend Drew, who also has a YouTube channel, and he's mixing this bad boy up. We're in the closing stretch.
In 2018, Michael releases A Million Lights, a pop album, and Surrounded, a worship album. This proves that he could still do both. In 2021, on the 20th anniversary of 9/11, Michael released Worship Together. This is a reimagining of the original Worship album, but this time with a full symphony orchestra. We could talk about all of this for so long, but Michael's most cherished accolade is not the 45 Dove Awards he has.
And I pray that during all this thing that's happening with the records, that all this stuff will bring me closer to him. That's the most important thing in my life, and keeping my family together.
It's his role as a father and now a grandfather of 16. Michael and Debbie have been married for over 40 years. They had 5 kids, and those kids all had kids. His career feels like a paradox. A man who is in a constant search of a high at first found everything he needed at his lowest point. This shows that rock bottom isn't the end. Instead, it's the only place that you can really build a foundation. Michael has had over 36 albums, not to mention that he has sold 15 to 18 million of those albums. And out of those albums, these are my top 5. But the question is, what is my top song, and can I do it justice?